throwing the whole thing.
Always catch that last hurdle, man. That last hurdle.
Looks like a good showing already. But I don't think we need to. Yes.
Oh, yeah, man.
Okay, and they're going to be in the back row, right? All right. So, let me see here. Need a packet of info. Some latest letter sign, media advisory, news release, and then a larger letter signed by a bunch more companies.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know if that's going to stay up with the humidity. Hey, Jack. Jack.
Probably needs fresh tape. I think that's. I know.
You want to get your sauce beforehand? I'm ready.
Gave Jack. Hey. Who else needs a packet? You need a packet of info?
How are you? How are you?
Hey.
Everyone's here. You want to
Sure. I can.
grab it? Do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody need this podium? So I have run a show, actually run a show.
You remember Manuel?
Yes, hey, Manuel, Jennifer.
Okay, so where are you? I'm one of those side-by-side
No. Still wear this.
Yes, we're on the south side. All right, I think you're on the back side. I think you're on the north side. Exactly. Okay. See you in a minute. So what you can do, what you can help me out with.
Just do both hands.
Oh, nice when that door's open.
Yeah.
I know. It's like,
That's powerful.
I know kidding. 'Cause we're not like,
So do both.
championed that in our budget, finance, and audit. We increased our exemption for the seniors. So fundamentally, there's some topics they're taking up where I don't disagree with the ideas, but I just think it needs to be maintained, the control of that at the city level.
If I'm not mistaken, Representative Leal created a bill that would limit local spending, local government spending. Is that going to make sense?
Well, it's definitely going to have an impact on our budget. So again, I think we should be making those decisions at the city level, deciding how we're going to spend and allocate our resources. I think, and we should also be fiscally responsible, though, and be cognizant of the fact related to our taxpayers that we need to not be spending, rolling back the rate when possible, especially when we see values increasing, in which we were able to do last year.
So what would your message be to Lieutenant Governor, the governor, and Kevin Stroud? Are they going too far?
I think when they're preempting some of our ordinances, that we've worked hard, we've listened to our public, we have our constituents we bring in. I mean, I listen to all sides before I approve ordinances going forward. I think we put a lot of homework into it, and I think it's representative of the citizens of Dallas, and I maintain that we should have that control.
And I guess the governor's concern is, they don't want to California.
Yeah.
Do they have a point?
Again, I don't want to Californianize, is that how the term it is, our state either, but I just, there's some issues that I think the control needs to be maintained and I think it is a responsibility for us as city leaders to make good decisions and take all the parties into consideration. And our taxpayers, we cannot forget our taxpayers. It's going to be an interesting session, and we'll be watching from a city perspective all the progress and the actions city level. These changes. Well, I mean, we're hearing some positive feedback that we need to give the support of the representatives that stop it. Well, I mean, I think it's Stroud kill it, but he needs his house back. So we got to work on make sure that we'll see.
Gang's here. Good to see you, Chris Fox.
Yeah, Jackson. Good to see you.
Happy slow up in Dallas.
Huh?
They were supposed to be slow up in Dallas.
No.
There's a big chunk of Dallas here.
Oh, I don't know what.
For this, the chamber.
Plan to have people stand here.
Yeah, like right here. We got it roped off, so you usually don't care, but
Yeah,
so we'll
probably
just have
the-
them right here and here. And let me see, it's 10:52, so it's the wait line.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good showing.
Great showing. Yeah, well, I have like, guys on game there, so I've got like 500 people on my list that are, and then statewide, I have individuals.
Yeah.
Guess why I'm Ashley Hurst with Business San Antonio. Nice to finally see you.
I know.
I know that's the Rachel River.
Let me see. Hey, how are you? So I'm hoping they're here, but I haven't identified anybody
I don't
yet.
see anybody that I
I
recognize.
don't either.
And Richard is our director of communications, and he would definitely recognize somebody. Now they all said, all the radio stations said that they were going to patch into the live stream
Okay.
and run it.
And I would think that all the TV stations are going to pull from you.
Yes.
Unless,
Yeah, San Antonio probably will as well.
yeah, let's get people organized. Man. All right, so this is cleared out for Jeff, whoever. Let's see.
Last time they touched, they got a phone.
I just have a podium.
My transmitter?
Okay, we'll get people. Yeah, that'll work.
I don't think so. Huh? Yeah, there's some room for you.
I hate the wireless dealies because if I touch it, it buzzes. I get like a buzz.
Wireless what? Wireless.
What's better? Should we have people off the steps?
They've got to be right here. That's reservation. Yeah. To give her right here.
If everyone can come down below the steps onto the
Hello. So we are getting ready to start. Can everybody come down the stairs, please, in front of these white rails?
Hi, Angela. Oh, nice to meet you. You bet.
I know.
Tom Weisman. Right here, middle, front. Hi. Huh? Yep. Look out.
Can we get the speakers down front also?
Okay. I was going to say out here, I don't know if there's an answer.
Test. So is everybody ready? All right.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Mosley. I'm CEO of the Texas Association of Business. For more than 95 years, the Texas Association of Business has been on the front lines of every issue impacting Texas businesses. And that's because what affects business in Texas affects every one of us. We know that these business issues impact our schools, our roads, our state budget, our quality of life. Well, this morning we're here to present a group of business leaders, and they're going to give you clear evidence that regulating bathrooms and changing rooms is really not necessary, that this poses enormous long-term economic risk for the state of Texas. It literally challenges the miracle of Texas. We have empirical evidence from North Carolina, from Indiana, from other states, that state-sponsored discrimination has very severe economic consequences. Consequences on talent, on tourism, on investment, on growth, and especially on small business. You're going to hear from our speakers this morning how these consequences have already begun to unfold in Texas. And this is really due to a prolonged debate over bathrooms. So faced with this overwhelming risk, we have no choice but to oppose this legislation that introduces discrimination into Texas. The Texas Association of Business stands with these businesses, stands with tourism. And we're asking our lawmakers to hear these united voices of the business community. And with that, may I introduce our first speaker today, Phil Gilbert. He's a senior executive, global head of design for IBM. Phil?
Thank you very much. I am Phil Gilbert. I am IBM's global head of design, based right here in Austin, Texas. I'm here today on behalf of IBM and on behalf of the more than 10,000 Texan IBMers that we have employed across the state. And I'm here to say that discriminatory legislation, like the so-called bathroom bill, is harmful to business. It's bad for business. A bathroom bill would allow IBMers to be discriminated against, our families, our communities to be discriminated against. This goes squarely against long-standing IBM values of diversity and inclusion. It goes against long-standing Texan values, where independence and grit are the meaningful measures of any person. It's been these Texas qualities that have allowed us to bring thousands of talented people into this state. Because high-tech jobs today can literally be done anywhere, companies like IBM, both large and small, have to figure out where to locate those jobs. And those jobs have to be located at places where people want to live and work. A bathroom bill, or any discriminatory legislation that targets the LGBT community, hurts our ability to recruit and retain talent in Texas. But it's not just recruiting and retention. Our company's big. Our teams come from anywhere. On any given day, there are hundreds of thousands of IBMers that are traveling through public airports, that are meeting in public convention halls, sleeping in hotels, eating in restaurants. These bills negatively impact those jobs too. As I said, it's just bad for business. On behalf of IBM, I thank you very much for your time here today. I also want to specifically thank Speaker Joe Strauss and Chairman Byron Cook for standing strong against this issue. And we urge all of our citizens and all of our elected officials to stand strong with them. Reject these discriminatory acts. Such measures are wrong. They're bad for business. They have no place in the 21st century, and they have no place in Texas. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is David Hurd, and I help run a cybersecurity software company, and I am the CEO of TechBlock in San Antonio. And TechBlock is a grassroots movement created by more than 5,000 tech companies and tech workers to activate San Antonio's local tech economy. And we know that the best economic development strategy is to ensure that San Antonio can attract and retain smart, innovative people. A 1% increase in the demographic known as smart creatives drives a 2.3% increase in our GDP. Simply put, tech talent is the #1 driver of growth in our local tech industry. But attracting tech talent is not easy. Workers with tech skills are in high demand. They can pretty much choose to live and work from anywhere they want. More and more, these workers are deciding on where to locate based on lifestyle and value choices, not just salary. We have to create and maintain an open environment that these young workers want to be a part of. And already we know that it will take years to overcome the perceptions that this very bathroom debate has already created. Perceptions that Texas is intolerant, unwelcoming, and hostile to vulnerable minorities. But what will be even more devastating are the future economic hits to Texas and cities like San Antonio should this proposed bathroom bill become law. We are working very hard every day to build a city that can be a magnet for tech, talent, and workers and innovators. And discriminatory legislation only makes our job harder. I'm frustrated that we're spending time on this debate when we could all be working together to build an innovative and prosperous Texas that could compete for the best tech talent from anywhere in the world. So we proudly stand with these leaders and with thousands of other employers around the state today. This bathroom bill is a job killer, so let's kill this bill before another job becomes a victim of this discriminatory legislation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sally Larrabee. I'm in charge of Human Resources and Safety at Process Control Outlet. We are a small industrial engineering and process control repair service company in Baytown, Texas, and we serve the oil and gas industry. I'm a conservative and a proud Texan. I am especially proud of our state's reputation for being a warm and welcoming place to live. I deal with safety issues for my company every day, so I understand the desire to have laws that keep everyone in our state safe. Fortunately, numerous law enforcement officials have already said we have laws in place needed to handle anyone who intends to harm another person in a bathroom. I do support equality and non-discrimination, and as such, we do not need to give our great state a reputation for being a place that has laws that discriminate against anyone. In addition, I personally don't need a law like Senate Bill 6 or House Bill 2899 to make me feel safe in a public restroom. As a lifelong Republican and as a Texas business leader, I ask the Texas legislature to make common sense choices for our state, oppose discriminatory legislation that takes us backwards. Texas is known for making common sense decisions that respect and protect our citizens. Let's keep the common sense and lose the unnecessary fear with these bills. I did a financial study at my office. We have 32 employees, and it would cost $35,000 to install an extra stall that is not needed. And I could hire a full-time technical staff with that. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Philip Jones, President and CEO of Visit Dallas, and I'm also the head of the Texas Welcomes All Coalition. And at this time, I'd like to recognize some of my colleagues from around the state of Texas who've joined us here this morning. First, we have Mr. Dale Petrosky, who's the President and CEO of the Dallas Regional Chamber. We have Mr. Paul Van Deventer, President and CEO of Meetings Professionals International. We have Mr. Mike Waterman, President and CEO of Visit Houston. Ms. Cassandra Mate, President and CEO of Visit San Antonio. Mr. Brian Crow, President and CEO of Destination El Paso, Mr. Mitch Witten, who's Vice President of the Fort Worth Convention and Visitors Bureau, and Mr. Bill Thornton, who's the President and CEO of the Fort Worth Chamber. We also have several other representatives from Texas Convention and Visitor Bureaus here today, because this is a very important issue. And I'll get right to the point. We know that if the rest of the world sees Texas targeting a vulnerable group of people for discrimination, an economic cost will follow. The pursuit of bathroom legislation in all of its varying forms represents a willful disregard for those vulnerable people and for businesses, workers, and communities all over the state. Tourism is part of the lifeblood of the Texas economy. When Texas tourism suffers, as we know it will, the loss is not just a number on paper. It's about the local audiovisual technicians and musicians hired to put on an event. It's the caterers and the florists that rely on tourism to stay afloat. It's our hotels and restaurants and bars and all the people who work for them who need good hours to make ends meet. These are real livelihoods that are at stake, and they will affect real working families. And beyond individual workers, the tax revenues generated by Texas tourism support public schools, they support roads, and other essential agencies such as Child Protective Services. So as of today, we have been able to track $66 million in conventions and events that have already been canceled in Austin, Fort Worth, Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, and Arlington, simply because we're talking about discriminatory legislation. That's over 38,000 hotel room nights. An additional $205 million in events have told us that they will cancel if a bathroom bill passes, totaling another 167,000 hotel room nights. And even more concerning to all of us is a $1.15 billion on the line for conventions, events, and sporting events that say they're on the fence. They're going to wait and see what happens with the legislation before they make a final decision. That's over 400,000 room nights to the state of Texas. And we know these numbers will continue to rise over time as long as Texas continues to pursue this type of legislation. You've been told again and again that these discriminatory laws will not hurt Texas. But as of today, we're facing a total risk of $1.4 billion in confirmed and potential convention, sports, and event losses in this state. And unfortunately, that's just the beginning. We cannot, in good conscience, support legislation that is, by all expert accounts, unnecessary when we know it will do so much harm to hardworking Texans, and we stand with our fellow Texans in opposing discrimination. We have a letter signed by a number of Dallas-based companies, all the major companies based in Dallas, many of the major companies based in Dallas, who are also standing with us in opposition to a bathroom bill. So at this time, I'd like to call up my friend from the American Society of Association Executives, Mr. John Graham, to share with us some wisdom. John?
Good morning. My name is John Graham. I'm President and CEO of the American Society of Association Executives, ASAE. ASAE is the largest organization in the United States representing the interests of trade associations and professional societies. Each of these organizations hold thousands of meetings and conventions that represent significant spending and economic impact in host cities and states. We stand with our partners here in Texas in opposition to any proposed legislation that tolerates discrimination or seeks to limit existing protections for the LGBTQ community. There have been various versions offered, but these so-called bathroom bills have been debated all session here in Texas, and they represent manufactured and unnecessary legislation. The fact that it's even described as a bathroom bill is in fact misleading. The worst thing about these bills is that they would preempt existing anti-discrimination ordinances put in place by Texas cities and school boards to protect the LGBTQ community. Proponents of this type of legislation are insisting that there will be no economic repercussions associated with the passing of this bill. But I am here to warn you that they are wrong. When you create an unwelcoming environment for meeting and event planners and their attendees, there is a strong incentive for groups to hold their meetings elsewhere. They simply won't put their members at risk of feeling unsafe or, even worse, potentially denied services or public accommodations while they are here. Associations do a lot of business here in Texas, and understandably so. Many of the state leaders here today have played a critical role in creating and sustaining a business climate that is the envy of many, many other states. However, this state's reputation and economy are at risk if the state legislature continues to pursue legislation that tolerates and legalizes discrimination. The best course of action would be to drop this issue altogether. There is no need for this legislation and nothing to gain. I strongly urge Texas lawmakers to quash this debate before it adversely impacts the state's economy and before it tarnishes Texas' great reputation as a welcoming state. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm Tom Noonan, President and CEO of Visit Austin. The meeting planners we work with every day are concerned about this path of targeting vulnerable groups here in Texas. We know from polling in our industry that bathroom laws are one of the top policy deterrents for planning meetings, conventions, conferences here in the state of Texas and around the country. Many of these meeting planners simply do not want the headache of waiting and watching to see what Texas is doing, so they are taking their business elsewhere. The worst possible element for meeting planners, conventions, and sporting events is uncertainty. That's why for every high-profile cancellation you read about, dozens are quietly looking elsewhere, to climates and states that are welcoming and inclusive. This silent, slow bleed of opportunity is already hurting Texas and Texans, as Philip talked about. The reality is that folks who live outside of Texas can vote with their wallets. These types of discriminatory bills will hurt everyday Texans, our economy, and those who work in tourism and the hospitality industry across the state. We oppose discrimination in all of its forms. Thank you.
My name is Scott Joslove, and I'm President and CEO of the Texas Hotel and Lodging Association. The lodging industry is proud to be an industry that welcomes all, to the smallest B&B to the largest convention center hotel. We want to make sure that Texas continues to welcome all, whether it be in a hotel, in a school, or into all of our communities. I will tell you that a week does not go by where I don't get a call from a major hotel or a convention and visitors bureau indicating that they've had another large convention lost. Not because the bathroom law is passed, because it hasn't passed yet. Just the threat of a bathroom bill has made folks too nervous, too uncomfortable to bring their business to Texas. We're talking this week's call was for a $1.2 million piece of business to an Austin hotel that cannot afford to lose that type of business. This is not what we want for Texas. This is not what we want for San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, and all of Texas. We want to be a community and a state that welcomes all. We'll do whatever we need to do on behalf of the lodging industry to oppose any legislation which makes Texas unwelcome to visitors and an unwelcome community throughout. Thank you.
I'm Jennifer Staubach Gates, and I'm a lifelong Texan and a member of the Dallas City Council, a board member for Visit Dallas, and a head of the Dallas Domestic Violence Task Force. I had the privilege of being part of one of the most vibrant, forward-looking cities in the world. We didn't get that way by accident. Our commitment to welcoming everyone has made the DFW area a magnet for talented people, corporate investments, sports, entertainment, and tourism for the arts. In my role as Dallas Domestic Violence Task Force, I am honored that the survivors of violence, including sexual assault, trust us with their stories every day. To have the real trauma of these survivors misused in this bathroom debate is beyond the pale. Bathrooms are not the problem. The state has a crisis on its hands of children being abused and neglected and even dying on the watch of the state of Texas. We have real problems with sexual assault, with domestic abuse. Any attempt to draw the focus away from those problems and to the bathrooms should be widely condemned. As a stakeholder in Dallas economy and in Dallas' vibrant tourism industry, I am shocked that any elected representative would put so many large and small businesses and so many workers in harm's way. Personally, as a Catholic and a conservative, I am tired of the crusade against a group of people who are already in danger. I know that many Texans don't know any transgender people, so it's easy to fear those whom we don't know. But I know Texans, so it's no surprise to me that the most recent independent poll showed that the majority of Texans don't think a bathroom law is important, because most Texans believe, as I do, in treating people with dignity. And that includes when we don't understand their journeys in life. We can be better than this. I ask our legislators to show their political courage to take Texas back to its welcoming roots. Reject these bathroom bills. Reject overreach that would prevent cities and school boards from making informed decisions and how to protect our residents and visitors. Reject discrimination in any form.
We want to invite all of those who presented to come forward and stand with Philip and me to see if there are any questions you might have. In conclusion, we know from a study by Angelos Economics that the potential impact to the Texas economy is near $5.5 billion. We're pleased to make that report available to you. And we also want to say, while the legislature's here, we would wholeheartedly endorse them stepping up and pursuing remedies to public education and to taxation policy rather than spending efforts and energies on this piece of legislation. Would there be any other questions or comments, Philip?
I would just like to close out by saying you've heard from the business community today that this is a very, very damaging bill, that we have to do everything we can to stand up and oppose it, because the long-term consequences of passing legislation like this are significant. We've seen firsthand what's happened in North Carolina. They repealed the bill because it was such a bad idea. Why would we want to go down that road when we know what the end result will be? So I'm encouraging all of our legislators to please understand the importance of this issue and vote no on any version of a bathroom bill. And at this point, we're happy to answer any questions.
Philip also held up this letter. It's addressed to Governor Abbott, and it just came in this morning, and you'll be presented a copy, but it is a letter from some high-ranking business leaders that could not join us, but they gave us permission to use their names at this press conference. The CEO of American Airlines, Doug Parker, the CEO of Atmos Energy, Kim Coughlin, the CEO of AT&T, Randall Stevenson, the CEO of Celanese Chemical, Mark Rohr, the CEO of Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway, Matthew Rose, the CEO of the Beck Group, Fred Perpal, the CEO of E.J. Smith Enterprises, Emmett Smith, the CEO of the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, Sean Donahue, the head and chairman of Crow Holdings, Harlan Crow, the CEO and chairman of Fluor, David Seaton, the chairman and CEO of Kimberly-Clark, Thomas Falk, the CEO and chairman of Tenet Healthcare, Trevor Fetter, the CEO and chairman of Texas Instruments, Richard Templeton, and the CEO and chairman of Southwest Airlines, Gary Kelly. Are there any questions?
David?
Well, our tourism friends from San Antonio can speak to tourism probably better than I can, but I will generally say that I think San Antonio would disproportionately suffer, perhaps more than any city in this state, although all of them would suffer from an economic development and tourism standpoint. I think that the brand of San Antonio is diversity, inclusion, and openness, and this is counter to that 100%. San Antonio is often the second home to Texas residents across the state, and indeed a national tourism icon. So, of course, it would hit us hard from a tourism standpoint. We have 130,000 workers in the tourism industry, so it's a huge part of our economy. Undoubtedly, those jobs would take a hit. And in terms of the bridge we're trying to build to the future, which is to diversify our economy with tech, I can tell you that it would absolutely create headwinds that we cannot withstand, we can't tolerate. It's enough of a difficult struggle to get the top innovators from across the country to consider San Antonio, and any additional weight that we add to that effort just sets us back mightily.
And Cassandra Mate is here from Visit San Antonio. You want to add anything, Cassandra?
Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. Yes, as we all talk about, Cassandra Mate, President and CEO of Visit San Antonio. You know, travel and tourism around the state is big business, and certainly, as you mentioned, in San Antonio, we're a $13.6 billion industry. 1 in 8 San Antonians are employed in this industry, so any impact would be huge for those employees around the city and around the region. The San Antonio Tourism Council, along with the Visit San Antonio, we had Ray Perryman do an in-depth study, and in the San Antonio and New Braunfels region, there would be over a $400 million negative economic impact just to our industry alike. So this is real. This is important for legislators to hear us, because San Antonio, 80% of our 34 million visitors a year are leisure travelers. So not only am I getting calls daily from groups that will no longer hold a convention in the state of Texas, I'm now receiving emails and correspondence from from families, from couples that are saying that they're going to stay away from our state. So this is a real issue.
Well, I think Texas business is important for the Texas economy, and I think the fact that you have all these individuals signing letters, and you look around and you see all the folks from representing businesses across Texas here today, we have sway. We just need to make sure they hear our voice loud, and I'll defer to Jeff on that.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, Texas business is here to stay, and we're so happy that we have so many leaders that are stepping forward on this issue to say, look, there are priorities that we must focus on. And honestly, on this discussion, conservatives can disagree with conservatives. And the position that you're hearing today is really a very conservative position. We have to be careful to protect the Texas miracle. The jobs that Texas has been creating didn't just happen as a cosmic accident. It happened because there was a legislative strategy to put together economic incentives and benefits to grow jobs, to grow tourism, and to make sure that Texas was generating a vibrant economy. And check this out. As I was head of economic development under Governor Bush and Perry, we learned a lot of lessons, but this began about 15 years ago where the legislature took a deliberate, strategic plan of action to put in place these tools for local communities to go out and grow jobs. And we're just saying, let's make sure we take care of the Texas miracle, and let's fight to hang on to those jobs. And the distraction of a bathroom bill pulls us away from being competitive as a state. And let's not leave this press conference with any misunderstanding. We are competing for high-paying jobs with 49 other states. We are in a very fierce competition, and we need to make sure we're always putting on our game face and getting out there in the middle of the field.
Lauren? Yeah. I think you bring up a really good point. Some folks seem to think that if you pass a law that the impact's going to be immediate the next day. And we saw what happened in North Carolina. You know, from a tourism perspective, they had their best year ever for 2016. But 2018, 19, and beyond, their books are empty because people have boycotted and canceled meetings and events. So there's a lag time between when you enact policy and when the impact occurs. And I think you're seeing that now, that the discussion about discriminatory laws is having an impact on the Texas brand. And having this discussion, as we pointed out, we've already lost $66 million in business just because we're talking about it. We need to stop talking about it, fix the problems the state has, and move on to things that are more important to the voters of this state.
I know you've written letters to the governor about it. Have any of you talked to him directly about this? And so, what did he tell you?
Look, I think we're pleased to have individual communications with you, about our various strategies. This is a communication to all of the leadership and the legislature today, the fact that we come together in a public press conference, and we are very much committed and unified to fight for jobs and paychecks. Take that message forward.
So you're not saying whether any of you have met with the governor? I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear that.
Speak to that, Philip.
Yeah, we certainly, many of the folks in this audience have met with the governor, spoken to the governor, spoken to the governor's office about our concerns.
What was the reaction?
The reaction was it's included in the call for the special session.
I have a question for Mr. Gilbert from IBM. So you said you have 10,000 IBM employees?
In Texas, across the state.
Right, in Texas. So, I mean, assuming if a bill were to pass and that would go, what could we expect to happen to that number?
Well, without getting into specifics, it certainly impacts the criteria by which we make investment decisions. And I think there's 2 or 3 areas where you'll see IBM really look intensely at. Number one, we are the founders and key sponsors behind the Pathways to Technology schools. Just recently, in the last session, a framework was put in place by the legislature to provide for, I believe we can get the exact number, but I believe it's about 65 P-TECH schools across the state of Texas. It's going to be very difficult to participate in that program if the children at those schools are discriminated against by this bill. If you look at where we invest in workshops and meetings, as I mentioned in my prepared remarks, we certainly will respect many of the wishes. We'll have to respect many of the wishes of our employees about where they want these meetings to be held. We have people, as I said, coming in from all around the world. They meet every day. Hundreds of thousands of IBMers travel all the time. We have choices about where those meetings can go. Should a team meeting be held in Dallas, in Coppell, where we have a lot of phenomenal IBMers serving our clients? Or should it be held somewhere else? And finally, as has been mentioned around here, the emphasis that we put on recruiting, it just behooves any company to really figure out, if you're going to really try to recruit the best talent and you're competing with companies that are operating in locations that do not have these type of discriminatory bills, you have to really ask yourself, where are you going to grow? And so without getting into specifics of what might happen, those are certainly some of the things that we are looking at and will affect our own decision matrix.
Other questions for any of the other speakers? Or
Well, we feel like that there's even more unity today than we had during the regular session. We're very, very pleased with these leaders that are stepping forward to make their voices heard, especially during this special session, as evidenced by the team of voices that you've heard today, and then the letter that's being, and you'll hear more voices. So there's even more unity that this is a distraction and it's not the way to fight for jobs and paychecks.
Okay, final questions. All right, we enjoy being here in this lovely Texas weather in our suits. So,
It just got cool.
yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And individuals are available for any individual interviews. How are you?
Could I, you mentioned just a couple of